everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you. I'm going to talk about James Gunn's Superman once more and do some box office reporting on its opening weekend of release, covering the period of Friday the 11th of July to Monday the 14th of July in 2025. Now there could be spoilers for the movie mentioned here within this video, so just beware, and you can also check out both my non-spoiler and spoiler reviews of the movie itself, and I'll leave a link within the description. So we'll jump straight into the numbers then, and with US cinemas, the movie has claimed #1 spot with an opening of around $122 to $125 million, dethroning last week's champion Jurassic World Rebirth, which dropped to number 2. Now internationally, the film wasn't quite as successful, only managing to gross around $95 million for an overall global tally of around $217 to $219 million when the Monday figures are confirmed. So what do these numbers all mean then? Well, I'd say overall that this is a good solid opening, more so in the US, where we take into context firstly the clear decline and fatigue of the superhero genre within mainstream audiences, coming off 2024, which was possibly the worst year for the genre in terms of both commercial and quality levels. 2025 itself has seen the struggles, particularly of Marvel, continue, with both the likes of Captain America Brave New World and also Thunderbolts struggling to perform. Now we could spend even longer talking of the damaged brand of DC. Now whether people will agree to this or not, the DCEU or the Snyderverse just didn't resonate or have the cultural impact that the DC characters should do, especially when the superhero genre was really prominent when the DCU just started. We look at the last phases of the Snyderverse in terms of Black Adam, Blue Beetle and the Suicide Squad and Aquaman 2. All of these movies underperformed massively, compounding the bad aftertaste that was left over from the beginning of the DCU. So in terms of Superman, I think this is a good performance. Now we could argue that this is Superman, still the most recognisable cultural superhero character ever, so we should expect it to have a big opening. Now yes, I fully acknowledge that currently in culture today both Batman and Spider-Man are more popular, but Superman should still be prominent enough in all forms of entertainment, let alone just movies. Now yes, he hasn't historically been as box office prolific as Batman and Spider-Man, but I would say a lot of that has been down to the overall lack of quality in the movies and also how the character has been interpreted. How can it be that we go back to both 1978 and 1980 with the two Christopher Reeve films, when they were released, were amongst the highest grossing movies of the year that they came out with? So it's not as if Superman is a complete bust in terms of being a box office success. Again, it's just how the character is overall handled. But still, interest in this project was extremely high. As well as it being Superman himself, there was also the caveat of this being James Gunn's first cinematic start to his proposed Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. And the curiosity was there. How would this succeed? Would this prove to be the right step? And also, would James Gunn be the right man for a successful DC movie universe? I still maintain that he isn't. What would be the fallout if Superman indeed failed? What would that mean going forward for the Supergirl project, which is wrapped up filming and is due for release next year, and also the up-and-coming Clayface project? What would happen to both the proposed Batman Brave and the Bold project, and where would this leave Matt Reeves' The Batman sequel, which is still very much in the air? So there was lots of questions and again a curiosity surrounding this project. We then unfortunately have to touch on the online discourse surrounding this movie, whether it's from the Snyder fan base who clearly want this movie to fail, as that would further validate any potential resurrection of their own universe. We then have the supposed Gunn fan base who indeed respond to all of the reactions and protestations of the Snyder fans. We then have the clear bandwagon jumpers online who care really more about the trending and attraction of this project and will post multiple times on any positive or negative reviews or reactions or box office projections, just more for the sake of clicks and views and supposed online relevance rather than any care for Superman himself. Now I don't like to normally cover things like this, as I believe it's one of the big factors as what's wrong today in terms of movie culture and commentary. But you can't deny that all of this discourse online has raised or maintained awareness for the movie, and this is what the studio very much relies on. Now, I'll also say in terms of the marketing, I think the promotional touring has been very good. All of the main actors, in terms of David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, and Nicholas Hoult, have all presented themselves very well in all of their interviews and all of the small online little clips that we get where we see the actors ad-libbing of one another. I think this is all very good and the right way to certainly promote your film. I also have to mention and can't deny Rachel Brosnahan especially, who has been looking absolutely stunning and beautiful in all of her glamorous outfits within the various red carpet premieres of the film. Definitely without question one of the most hottest and strikingly beautiful actresses within 2025. So when we look at all of these factors that I've mentioned, we ultimately predict or speculate as to how much will Superman make overall when everything is said and done. Now, I've said multiple times when covering this film that in order to really be deemed a big success and really propel James Gunn's new DC era, that this film would need to have gross at least $750 to $800 million worldwide. That would be a significant amount not only to be profitable when we consider the film's $200+ million budget and at the very least $100+ million for marketing. That's the rule now. Any of these superhero projects really have to make around 700 million at least to see any levels of profit. But it wasn't just about profit here, it was again the signal that by being a massive box office success, this would clearly indicate that audiences were still invested in a DC cinematic universe and were indeed ready to move on post the Snyder interpretation. So when looking at the figures this opening weekend, I don't think it's going to reach that level of box office, unfortunately or fortunately, which way you look at it. And it's really down to the international numbers, which it seems aren't going to be able to match the domestic totals. Now, normally when we get bigger blockbusters like this, you would expect the international numbers to be larger, obviously because you're reaching out to further territories. And once more, that's where you're tapping in much more to the general, more mainstream audiences. If a movie grosses less internationally than it does in US domestic, it's highly unlikely that it will indeed be a box office smash. We also look then at the mixed critical reviews and reception, which are emerging more and more after the clear obvious shield reviews following the earlier Amazon Prime screenings. We then also have to consider Fantastic Four First Steps, which will be coming very shortly, and despite the underperformance of the previous two Marvel installments, I do see a bit more of a brighter anticipation for Fantastic Four, and that release will definitely take off a lot of the hype away from Superman and any potential long legs that it may show. So after all of this then, I'm feeling that Superman will overall end up with a total of around $500 to $600 million, which isn't terrible. It's not a disaster when we consider again the state of the superhero movie genre today, but I don't believe that will be good enough, especially when compared to 2013's Man of Steel, which itself was deemed a disappointment with its take of around $668 million. And if you go with some peril on Twitter, you'll just see an endless barrage of comparisons in terms of inflation and grosses in particular markets. All of this debate is fueled by the Snyder fans who use any and all arguments necessary to convince that James Gunn's version is going to be less successful. And we have to be fair here. If this does indeed gross less than Man of Steel, it's not really a good look for Warner Brothers, who clearly want to invest in these superheroes as much as possible, and certainly milk what they can with the Superman brand before things eventually go into public domain sometime after 2030. So those are my thoughts and feelings when looking at the opening box office figures for James Gunn's Superman. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other further movies or television series or any other topics within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know within the comments and I'll see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves and I will see you very, very soon.